So I'm the community sponsorship manager for NASC. We're based in Cork, the community, the Migrant and Refugee Rights Centre. So I'm going to do something that might be a bit annoying for people who have already started, who have already applied for their payments. So hopefully most of you have done it. It's not too complicated, but sometimes these things can be daunting, especially it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I put the right thing or not. So what I did is put together a document that we're going to circulate later that has like the screen grabs of each of the screens that you're going to be going through as you apply for the payment. I put them in a PDF document just because, like it had my address and my PPS number and all of those things. So yeah, so I'll just take you through it and I hope that's okay. So I'm just going to, very good. So I'm just sharing my screen there. I don't know, can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, super. Okay, so look, this document is going to be circulated later, so don't worry. So in the first part, we just put a few links together just so that people can have them handy. So you're going to see that the government has put together the main documents, like general information. You probably know about that. Your questions answered. So a lot of the questions that have come up were kind of addressed in this one. Some of them weren't very clear, so we can go through them at the end. You're going, if you've gone through the application process, you will have seen that people are required to confirm that they meet housing standards for this accommodation recognition payment scheme. So I've put a link for that as well. Now, can you guys see the text well enough, or will I zoom it in a bit?
No, it's very clear. Well,
Yeah,
for me, it's very
super.
clear. Yeah.
So just give me a shout there. I can always make it bigger. So just like a link to figure out what's your air code. I always forget mine, even though I do ask people for theirs. And for those of you who want to do a bit of recreational reading, there is, the relevant legislation. So whenever there was something that was unclear for myself, I just went back and read the legislation. So that kind of helped us a bit more. Now there's someone who is not muted and I'm just speaking over them. Not sure. But okay, super. So the first step, I guess, the step 0 is that for people to be able to apply for this payment, you do have to have what it's called the MyGov ID account. Okay, so if you don't already have one. A basic account is sufficient. So what that means is that a basic account is, you just need your email address, an email address, your name, your PPS number. It's fairly easy to do. Some of you, if you have dealt with like revenue or social welfare, you might already have an account and you might have had it verified. Verified means that you have gone through the steps to verify it. So you need a public services card for this, and you normally get a text to your phone and things like that. But in this case, if you don't have a verified account, you don't need to worry. You don't need to go and get a public services card if you don't have one. A basic account is sufficient. Okay, so I've put together. So I just put a link. The MyGov ID office they've made a video on how to create a basic MyGov ID account. So it's only 2 minutes. So I'm going to leave the link there for people to go through that in their own time. Okay. So I guess the step 1, as you might know, so I guess once you have your MyGov ID account, basic or verified, what you do is you go to the My Welfare website. So we've put the link there so that you can go straight into it. And it has additional information. So it tells you again, what is the accommodation recognition payment? It gives you a bit more information. But if you're ready, if you've read all about it, you can just click on apply now. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I am known for going too fast. So our step 2 is as soon as we click on apply now, it's going to take us to the MyGov ID account. So here we log in. So you will have created your account, you have your email and you have your password. People say don't write down your passwords, but if this is the first time you're doing it, maybe write it down until you can remember it. Okay. And this is a MyGov ID. So maybe use a password that you haven't used before or a variation, because you can access government services with this and you don't want anyone to guess what your password is. So as you can see here, so I put my email, my password, because I have a verified MyGov, I get this next step. So it sends a text to my mobile. It's a 6-number code and I just put that in. I'm not sure if people with basic accounts get this. Because I have verified, I don't know what it looks like, but it might just look like this, okay? So once you've gone through this step of putting your email address, your password, and your code, if you have a verified account, it will take you back to the home screen of the accommodation recognition page, okay? So this page is it gives you a bit of a warning. So it tells you, look, these are the questions we're gonna ask you, the personal details, the property, that, your own address and the property where you're hosting, because they may not be the same. For example, you could live in your own home and you can host someone in your own home, or maybe you have, somewhere in West Cork and you're hosting somewhere, someone there in a second home. And it will ask you for details from the residents, so the guests that you have in your house. And lastly, how do you want to get paid? So the progress in the form is going to be saved, so you don't have to finish it all in the one sitting, okay? You can always come back to it. So once you're happy that you have all of the information that it's asking you here, so it's telling you, look, personal details, the property, so you will need to have had, you need at this point to have the air codes handy, okay? And you have your IBAN ready and all of those things. So you click on begin application. I know for people who have done it already, this must be like really annoying, but I'm going to go through it step by step. Okay, so in this first page, it's going to check your own personal details. Okay, the applicant. So this is the host. So number one, it's going to ask you to, for your own address. So because I already had this account, and when you created your basic account, it might have asked you for your address. So it's going to show you your address there already. Okay. Now, if you've moved addresses since you created your account, you can always change it, and you can just click on change address, and you will just need to put in your new air code in there. Okay. Then the second thing is it's asking you how many properties you are holding, you are hosting people. So it's asking you if you're maybe hosting people in one property or more. So if it's on more than one property, you tick yes. You click yes, and you will say, for example, if you happen to have 5 or 6 properties where you are hosting people from Ukraine, you can put 6. And then what that's going to do is in the next steps of the form, it's going to ask you about each of those properties. So you will be giving the air code of each property and who is residing in that property. Okay. So, or you can just say, no, look, I'm only hosting in the one property. So you just click no. Once you're happy with that, you will just click save and continue. I hope I haven't lost everyone here. As I said, you will be getting this in your inboxes probably by tomorrow. Then step 5. So this is kind of like the second stage, okay? So number 1, and I might make it a bit bigger. It asks you for the details of the property, okay? So this could be your own home, or if you have a second home or a second property, wherever you are hosting someone else. Okay, so you will need your air code there. I was messing with this and I was trying to put like not a fake air code, but an air code to somewhere else that I could show you how it predicted. So I was trying to put like the Cork Opera House or the House of the Oireachtas or the Áras. It wouldn't let me. So I had to put on my own home address here. So you can see that the system will flag it if you put an air code that is not valid. So we're going to put that air code, that's fine. And then the second question is, are you hosting more than one person in this property? And again, what it will do is it will tell the system, if I'm hosting one person, it's going to show me resident 1, but then I can always add more residents, or if I put the wrong details or I want to delete it and start from scratch, you can always remove the rest. Okay, so very basic details. So it asks you for a first name and a surname. So I'm hosting Michael Collins in this location. again, I put this fake PPS number because I just said, look, I don't have Michael Collins' PPS number, so I'm just going to put this number, and it wouldn't take it. So later on, I had to put a real PPS number. I put my own, and only then it would accept it. So again, the system will only take correct numbers, existing PPS numbers. And you see here that it asks you what date the person started residing in this accommodation. Sorry, my English is not working anymore at 7 p.m. So put Michael Collins, his PPS number, when he started living with me. And then it asks me, is this person still living here or not? So if you say yes, that's kind of where it ends. But if you say no, that's fine. It will just open a new option, and it asks you, when did the hosting end? Okay, so from what we could see, and that's even covered in the questions asked and answered in the government website, even though if you started hosting in March and maybe the person for whatever reason left your accommodation in June or July, they haven't stayed for the 6 months, or they left before this payment became available, you can still go through all the steps in the system, and that shouldn't be a problem from our reading in the website. So if you had a second resident, it asks you again for the same information. So you can always add more residents or remove them if you made a mistake or if there's anything there. Once you're happy with this page, you will just be clicking on save and continue. Hope that's not too overwhelming. So we're almost there. So in the payment method, you can choose what account you want to be paid in. So because I didn't even know that I had so many bank accounts registered with the government, so they gave me a choice of my own bank account and 2 of my employer's bank accounts. So if you've had a bank account before with either social welfare or with revenue, it may show up here. Now, in my case, some of these bank accounts are not mine, or I closed one of them recently, so I wouldn't be choosing any of them. I will just add a new bank account. When you click on add a new bank account, it asks you, is your bank account Irish? So it can be an Irish bank account, but they will also accept Revolut and N26 bank accounts, okay? And there you will just be putting the name of the person who has the account and the IBAN. That's all you need. Now, IBANs are very long numbers, and they have some letters in the middle. So just be very careful that you're putting kind of like the correct information there. So that's the kind of like last bit of information that we have. And then it gives us a summary so that we can check if everything was correct. So at this point, it gives me the chance to just, I don't know about you, but when I'm applying for something, I'm always kind of like, did I put my name right? You know, I worry about these things. So you can always just check, okay, I put the right address. Okay, one property. So you can expand on each of them. So you can click on the minus if you want to contract it, but plus if you want to see what is there. And you can always click edit, and it will take you back to that page and fix any mistakes that you may have made or anything, or you just want to double check, you know. Once you're happy with all of that and you've read all of that, there is this very kind of like, not very long, but a declaration. So this is, it'll just be very important to kind of like just make sure that you've read all of this, because you will be asked at the bottom there to tick to say that you have read and you agreed to it. So I'm just going to go through them one by one for the benefit of, you know, people who might be looking at this later. So this is a declaratory payment. So when you're making this declaration, you are declaring that, as far as you know in good faith, that you are eligible for this accommodation because you're hosting, so that you understand that you're only eligible for this payment while you're hosting a person. So later on, it tells you that you will notify the department if something changes, that the accommodation meets the required standards. Again, we have that in the first page, the link where you can take a look at what the standards are. I've taken a look, like it might look a bit scary, but it's, you know, window limiters and things like that. Maybe we can talk about later. Then the next one is that you are entitled to provide the accommodation. So I guess when you're looking at the information on the payment, you have to be the owner of the property. If you're not the only owner, you have permission from the other owners. If you're a tenant, that your landlord has agreed to it. And if there are other tenants, they must agree with it as well. Again, so, you know, that's kind of covered in this, you know, that if you're the occupier, the owner, or the other occupiers have been given, that you have committed to providing this accommodation for at least 6 months. Again, the person doesn't have to stay there for 6 months. It's just that you made that initial commitment. Things change. People might move out for whatever reason. That's okay. The government will not, from their questions and answers, they said that they won't be looking for any money back, provided the person was staying there in your home. Okay. The next one is that you have not entered into a rental agreement with the beneficiary or beneficiaries. Like, that's actually an exclusion. Like, if you have a rental agreement, you're not hosting, you have a tenancy landlord, you know, tenant landlord relationship with that person. Then you just are confirming that the information in the application is truthful, complete, that if any of that information is untrue or misleading, or if you don't disclose, you know, like, this is fairly standard in practically every social welfare application. And then the last one, this is very important, that you will immediately let the department know if there's any changes that may affect your entitlement to the accommodation recognition payment. So what I would say is, look, if anything happens, say for example, you know, you sell your house or the person has left, notify the department. And while you can do that over the phone, if you get a chance to do it via email, it's always good, because you will have a copy of that email, while you may not necessarily have a copy of that phone call, because you can't copy a phone call. So yeah, and that's, you know, you're done. It's not too long. Hopefully I didn't go too fast or too slow. So I might just stop the sharing of my screen, or unless people have any questions about this section, so that I can go back to the form, or I can always share it again later. So back to you, Karen.